always discover tombs and statues under the sand in the excavation. But this time, I'm taking you to a unique place, the basement of the Cairo Museum. We'll excavate in this basement. We'll show you new discoveries that no one ever saw before. Even I will show you the first statue that gave me the passion and love to archaeology.
Invaded every year at the height of summer by the water that nourishes its land. Kissed every day by the rays of the sun. The Nile Valley has become the cradle of a civilization turned myth. More than 100 years have passed since this elegant neoclassical building in the center of Cairo became the home of more than 3,000 years of ancient Egyptian history. The museum houses the largest display of ancient Egyptian culture in the world. Every year, more than 2 million people visit its galleries to admire the masterpieces that have survived for thousands of years and tell the story of a sophisticated and mysterious civilization that will never cease to fascinate us. A magical place where evidence of the great pharaonic civilization is condensed into a long line of galleries and rooms, large cabinets and small caskets. With every visit, you discover something new, whether it is something in the play of lights that illuminate the large court on the ground floor, or while walking along the endless walls crammed with coffins. That is, until you reach the overwhelmingly beautiful mask of young Tutankhamun, which time and time again takes your breath away, as if seeing it for the first time. However, just below all this splendor, there lies a mysterious labyrinth, the other face of the Cairo Museum, its basement. A maze of corridors and tunnels that runs underneath Tahrir Square. An impenetrable treasure cove brimming with evidence of Egyptian history.
The Egyptian Museum was designed to hold about 20,000 objects, but now there are probably more like 200,000 artifacts housed here. Many of them are on display in the upper galleries where I'm standing, but many are also below me in the maze of narrow corridors that are the museum's basement. For over a century, objects were brought from excavations all over the country and stored there, often without being registered or recorded properly. Cleaning and organizing the basement is like a new excavation in and of itself, and many very interesting objects are being rediscovered there.
It was for a long, long time, for years and years, the central magazine for all of Egypt. Any mission work in anywhere in Egypt and find some object, they would bring it to the Egyptian Museum.
During the first half of the 19th century, Egypt decided to put an end to an intolerable practice. Since ancient times, visitors from overseas had been amazed by the magnificence of Egyptian art and tried to take away a piece of those wonderful antiquities when they left, from obelisks to jewels. was mainly smugglers and art dealers, but also the great European universities who wanted to own a piece of Egyptian heritage. Day after day, all sorts of antiquities went missing from the excavation sites and found their way overseas. Too many pages of this history book were at risk of being left blank. In 1835, the Egyptian Antiquities Service was founded to try and prevent further plundering of these treasures, and plans were made to create a collection center which would take care of and examine all the artworks that the Egyptian soil kept donating. A few years later, French Egyptologist Auguste Mariette came up with the idea of building an actual museum. The winning design, presented by architect Marcel Doumillon, managed to blend modern architecture with elements reminiscent of ancient times. The floor plan of the museum follows the layout used for Egyptian temples during the late kingdom. As with the temples, there were to be no clear partitions between the rooms. The two-story building contains around 100 rooms which surround the central court. The museum was also provided with a basement which was meant to be used as a storeroom for objects in transit. However, the flow of antiquities was never ending, and records were at that time being written by hand. Crates were soon being stacked haphazardly, and the basement was no longer just a temporary solution, but had become a permanent storeroom. Zahi Hawass has taken us for the first time through the secret chambers in order to unveil some of the hidden treasures.
I think the one who really excavating the basement is Sabah. The basement became a part of Sabah, and she comes here every day, and she does go opening cases, boxes, and one of the most interesting discovery that she made is really something found in 1922. It's a tomb found in Asyut, next door to a place called El Salakhana. And this tomb was found by a French archaeologist. The most amazing objects of this tomb is really scenes representing Anubis and Wawat, which is really unique. As an archaeologist, this is really very rare to find pottery stela with the representation of Anubis and Wawat. Anubis was the god of the cemetery, the god of mummification, who guards the cemetery for the ancient Egyptian, and with Wawat, the one who opens the door.
Each antiquity provides a missing piece to the complex mosaic that tells us about pharaohs, deities, and ordinary people. Historians were baffled for a long time by the riddles posed by the hieroglyphics. All the while, those symbols remained silent. Egyptian culture could never fully be appreciated. They were as important as they were complex. On the 2nd of July, 1798, troops led by General Bonaparte arrived in Cairo. The army contingent was accompanied by a scientific commission made up of 167 experts and included astronomers, natural historians, surveyors and illustrators tasked with describing Egypt and its main features. A year after their arrival, an anonymous soldier discovered a black basalt stone inscribed with both hieroglyphic and Greek writing. It was the Rosetta Stone, the key that would enable us to decipher ancient Egyptian texts. For 20 years, the inscriptions on the stone remained silent, until on the 14th of September 1822, French scholar Jean-François Champollion announced to the world that he had managed to translate it. Champollion had discovered that the hieroglyphics were not to be read as symbols describing ideas or objects, but rather as phonetic signs. The sounds associated with each symbol were critical to their decipherment. This significantly broadened our horizons and gave us new insights into the history of the human race. Champollion's discovery created renewed interest in ancient Egypt and what is today commonly known as Egyptomania.
This is something I touched it more than 25 years ago. In the middle of the tomb, this beautiful statue was found. I began to clean to discover this statue of Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty and love to the Greek. She was also in the eyes of the Roman, Venus, the goddess of beauty and love. She was in the eyes of the ancient Egyptian, Hathor, the goddess of beauty and love. I had my brush. I began to clean. I found the face, a part of the body. And this is when I said, I found my love, archaeology.
Karnak is without a doubt the most magnificent and imposing architectural complex in Egypt. It was the home of the god Amun, and every pharaoh has honored this god over the centuries by building a part of the temple. It developed into a real maze of sacred buildings, decorated with majestic columns, obelisks, and statues. On the 3rd of October 1899, an earthquake destroyed 11 columns and left the main hall in ruins. The site was rebuilt by a group of experts, and in 1903, archaeologist Legrand discovered an alabaster floor. Below it was a gallery that led to a storeroom filled with at least 17,000 statues. Most of them are exhibited in the museum, but many remain hidden underground.
This beautiful statue, look at the decoration and the amazing necklace that ended with the goddess Hathor, goddess of beauty and love. This is a statue made of granite, and this is a piece of it found. Heads of rams. This is really what is left over of this major discovery that happened in 1903.
The Cairo Museum is different in many ways. I would say first, the Cairo Museum doesn't collect, doesn't buy. The objects are coming to us without asking for it, you know. There are some museums which are like the Egyptian Museum in the way that it is only ancient Egyptian antiquities. I mean, the collection is ancient Egyptian, like the Egyptian Museum in Turin and like the Egyptian Museum in Berlin.
Excavating in the basement of the Cairo Museum is amazing. There is no place else in the world, a museum or a site that can tell us about the history of Egypt more than the basement of the Cairo Museum, because over 200,000 artifacts are hidden under the ground.
A project has been running since 2004 aimed at rearranging these antiquities and showing them the appreciation they quite rightly deserve.
The story that I will tell you now, it is why when I became the head of antiquities, I decided to change this basement. The story began when I was a young man. I went to a site for excavation. In that time, I did not want to be an archaeologist. I really hated to be an archaeologist. Every day I used to sit in the pits, hating every minute to staying in these excavations at a site called Film. It was very important archaeological site. But at that time, I do not know. We discovered temples, cemeteries, tombs. Every year I used to come, bring over 60 boxes in a truck. The director will take the boxes, put it in the basement. Years after I finished my excavations, and I asked every director of the Cairo Museum, where is the boxes of Film? They never found it. They never know anything about it.
At least 50,000 pieces have, up to now, been recorded, but it is estimated that there are at least 90,000.
We decided to work and develop and register and put everything in order. Of course, it was for us a shock that through these years, the boxes were not signed. We didn't know where are they from and so on. So we think we have achieved lots of excavations in our own basement.
For Egypt, the past and the future proceed at the same pace, one the wealth of the other. New museums enrich the country, giving breathing space to Cairo Museum, which has become too small to house all of ancient Egypt's treasures. The museum will be open in 2009 at the El Fustat site in Cairo. The themed galleries will house a rich display of the many historical aspects of this extraordinary country.